Deadman Mode 2021. As you know, I'm a skiller who loves hunting a high rank on the high scores. However, this Deadman Mode had a lot of changes. Sigils, the 3 life system, separate combat brackets, and no multi-stage to qualify for the 1v1 tournament. Everything we'd known had changed. This video will be different to my Deadman Mode 2020 video, which, if you haven't seen, is totally worth a watch, because I was a little less motivated to document and record my progress this year. Sorry y'all, but Deadman Mode was such an exciting moment that a video ended up being an afterthought, so here's the story of how I maxed my account in 3 weeks on Deadman Mode. So firstly, the plan. In the lowest combat bracket, 3 to 35, I could reach 70 defense and 43 prayer, all with 50 hit points. However, before I did that, I needed the sigil of the skiller as soon as possible. Every extra day with double experience would mean everything to the end game of the account. And knowing that the sigil was going to be expensive, I needed a moneymaker to suicide early until I could get the sigil and start tanking up. So just like last tournament, I rushed Wintertodt, this time on 3 accounts. 2 accounts to do Wintertodt, and 1 account to stand guard and either kill the PKers or just distract them long enough to let me log out. While it did work for a fair bit, there was some failings.
I killed him. Tom. He says Tom. He said Tom and he died. So this second guy I just killed, he's apparently in my clan. He wasn't in my CC, so it wasn't my fault, but I had to refund him.
Now that I was the thumbnail of a Sea Engineer video, I had tasted true fame and success, and as you know, things come easier to those who are already successful. And by the blessings of the Big O himself, I got 5 Tomes of Fire in 2 days, including the first in the entire game and the third. Most of that early money went to the clan helping fund our raids and questing teams, but some of it came back to me and I finally had my skiller sigil. From here, I enacted the plan outlined in my last video, how I became the low tier Torag tanker. If you want to know the full details, video in the description or in the sidebar. It's somewhere, go find it, but the summary is that a bunch of achievement diaries done with EXP turned off and then redeemed with XP turned back on. Once I had tanked up, the skilling journey began. And after a certain amount of time, most PKers who saw me didn't even bother attacking me. They kind of just left me be. Now while I love skilling, YouTube algorithms tell me it's not the most exciting thing to almost all audiences, so we're going to skip ahead. But first, a quick rundown of every single skill, how I trained it, and what sigils I was using at the time. Mining. Power mining iron mainly, and getting some rune rocks whenever we get the chance, specifically in the mining guild. We also did some AFK stars for additional experience in crafting when we redeemed the Stardust. Smithing. Using a ring of forging on all of my iron ores, turning those bars then into either arrow tips or throwing knives. It was a long process. Fishing, I just harpooned tuna, very easy. Cooking, I just cooked those same tuna, very easy. Fire making, that was day 1, Wintertodt. Woodcutting started off with Wintertodt and then ended up just being AFK willows and maple trees. Farming, you plant some trees, you get some XP boosts, and then you just check on the tree later on and bam, huge influx of experience. Agility, I just did rooftops. Herb lore, I cleaned herbs and then made a lot of attack potions. Thieving, I did blackjacking up until about 90 when I stopped feeling so safe in the desert and then decided to go pickpocket Ardy Knights. Crafting, well those rings of forging needed to come from somewhere, and I had a lot of rings of recoil made on my low account bracket to help fund a big purchase coming later on in the video. Fletching, I had spare maple logs, just fletched them. Hunter, I went from swamp lizards to orange salamanders to black chinchompers. And yes, I felt very safe out there in the middle of the wilderness. A lot of people tried to kill me, not many came close. Rune crafting? Fire runes up until I could do bloods. As a quick note, I did blood runes with no food in my inventory, looking at my minimap constantly with my mouse over a teletab because there was nothing I could do if someone caught me out there. Thankfully, the 6 times that people did show up, I clicked on the teletab instantly and got out just fine. In construction, I bought out a lot of mahogany planks when their price had crashed right when everybody was just, spamming the Revenant caves. There was so many planks, nobody was doing construction, I managed to buy a lot of them out at a very cheap price. And bam, just like that, I'm completely maxed out in the 3 to 35 bracket, and now there's nowhere to go but up. And after 2 weeks of tanking every single low-level PK and Peppy Iban's blaster, I felt incredibly safe. And unfortunately, that arrogance would come back to bite me. But for now, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's jump to the combat training. As I move up a bracket, I'd gain an hour of immunity, and I wanted to do as much as I can in that time to make the most of it. Here's the plan. First off, before we move up, do everything in Dragon Slayer without handing in the quest. Finally, we're leaving our home, move up to 36 and then hand in Dragon Slayer for more bonus XP. Then we complete Grand Tree and Monkey Madness. In theory, those XP rewards would put me in 71, however, due to the plan of winging it, I didn't really bother doing any math, and it turns out that Grand Tree was enough to get us all the way to 80 combat. A waste of protection time perhaps, but screw it, I didn't want to do Monkey Madness anyway. Then I had a special assignment, Wilderness Altar to 90 Prayer, as the clan required someone who can make an Elysian Spirit Shield in the 71 to 100 bracket. And from there, complete Holy Grail and train up in a safe zone. Finally, 101 bracket. Make a delivery for someone and then train Wilderness Slayer for 10 tasks for an influx of points. The idea was simple and actually came from a clanmate of mine. Complete 10 Wilderness tasks and then purchase Sigil of the Slaughter to buy my tasks all the way up to 99 Slayer doing Bloodvelds in a relatively safe place. This is where my first big mistake happened. You see, at this time, there was about 80 or so active players per world during active times, so activity is low. Adding in that the Wilderness Slayer is a relatively, unpopular thing to do in the max combat bracket compared to the lower ones, and that nobody would be stupid enough to train at a task in multi-combat unnecessarily, I took a risk. What PKers would bring a team of 3 people to go and check those abandoned places that nobody would be stupid enough to train at? God, just thinking about it, the amount of crazy moments I've lost due to not having recorded every second of this Dead Man Moan tournament is crazy. I need to look into like Shadowplay or something, but to end that chapter, 3 people attacked me and I lost out big time. I had a huge bank, most of it's gone. However, I did safely deposit my Odium Wood. My big ticket 2 mil item was safe, and I could still do Slayer in the Slayer Caves with a really high magic defense when the time came. Task after task, I finally finished up the 10 streak, and I could start the Bloodveld grind. On 2 lives left, I had a bit of confidence, but I needed to remain diligent. I'd been attacked by raggers, maxers, and content creators alike. The 2 hungriest amongst them were an unknown Uruk, or however that's pronounced, which is actually a clan of PKs and PVMers who do amazing things every Dead Man Mode tournament, and Dittabitter, a content creator known for his PKing ability and actually located in the same time zone as me. And despite the former being an organised team with a lot of resources, I was much more scared by the latter, as this guy attempted to attack me several times a day. Most of the time I managed to get into combat with a Bloodveld and run to safety, and once or twice he'd gotten on me, but wasn't lucky enough on specs, or he'd just splash a freeze. However, he was persistent, and I wasn't paying attention, distracted by something in the real world, and this happened.
Please catch this freeze. There we go. Nice. Why am I on rapid? I have no idea. Claw that. Into the VLS. Dead. Oh, finally, bro. I've been trying to get this guy for so long.
He was so confused by my bank key, and I won't spoil that here, so if you're interested, go and check out the channel Dittabitter. If you're a fan of PKing, he's an amazing person to follow, tell him Average sent you. Or if you're here for that high-octane skilling action, stick around. We're now down to 1 life, and had lost most of our money and gear. And, if that 3rd death hit, my dreams of maxing would be over, as it would be an insurmountable challenge to come back from losing my entire bank and Skiller Relic, which was only rising in price. Anxiety was at an all-time high, but I had to keep going, and thankfully, we made it. Well, now all we had to do was deal with Prayer, Range, and Mage, which could all be done safely, so with some help from a clan member and some underground training, we could finally reach max level. This is where a new challenge presented itself, as we needed to go and get a max cape, which is only available in one specific place that isn't exactly easy to get to. So, I ran up to the max island. A scout? I mean, likely just scouting people going for Dragon Defenders or watching for PKs incoming. Nothing I should worry about, right? So I cut down the tree and fumbled getting over it. I'm not used to this area, and this is actually where my inexperience actually ended up being the thing to save my life, as I'd wasted enough time on these stupid obstacles to spot him. Following from the rear, a maxed player, EVscape, kitted in full magic gear and looking for a fight. I waited for a good 20 minutes before going back, and, to my surprise, three things to note here. Firstly, I had no idea that the travel delay was so long on this island. There was a good 3, maybe even 5 ticks of game time there where he could have attacked me and there was nothing I could do to stop it. Secondly, he didn't get his attack off in time, and the reason why would be coming up in just a moment. Thirdly, I came to realize something. My goal has always been to make the high scores at a high rank for the fun of it. And the cost of getting a max cape to flex for 2 days could have cost me the last 3 weeks of work. Therefore, it just wasn't worth it. So I went back to cooking, and after about an hour, EVscape himself showed up. We had a chat, and it turns out the reason he didn't attack me was because he had forgotten to turn on his attack options for players. Not only that, but this wasn't some one-off random attack. This man had a rogue group of demons working for him, scouting me and a few other players specifically, making a video on PKing people on the Max Island, and I was going to be one of his victims. I almost was. We talked further, and he offered me an alternative. Either he'd guide me to the Max Island and keep me safe, or he'd attack me if I didn't take him up on his offer. It felt bad to assume the worst from someone, but this is Deadman mode. Hacking, botting, doxing, social engineering, luring, it all comes out when there's cash prizes and glory on the line. I couldn't afford to trust them and just left them be. I wasn't going to get my max cape, which kind of sucks, but it'd be safe. That's what matters. And then, an unlikely outcome. I asked EVscape if he'd swap me in 10mm Deadman mode to afford a Guardian Angel sigil, which I could then sell after my exploits in the danger zones, and then instantly swap back for. And then he kind of just gave me 10mm. I asked him what world to meet me in, and he said he didn't care. The sigil didn't buy for 13mm, so we were delayed, and then EVscape just gave me another fucking 10mm, without a word. We got our sigil, we finally geared up and went out to claim our prize. This was actually one of the highlights of my Deadman mode career out of every single year I've participated in. Not the Torag tanker respect I got for 2 weeks straight, not maxing an account for the first time ever in my life, just the random act of kindness from a content creator. Total f***ing bro moment. And I know that it might not have meant much to him, but it meant a lot to me, and I think he knew that. So EVscape, thank you.
Oh, and by the way, in post-production before we wrap this up, Average gave me back the 15mm I gave him for the Guardian Angel sigil, and then some. Unlike the fucking idiot that stole 4 million GP from me. Don't let one bad person stop you from doing nice things. Guys.
So now, with the villain of the story successfully turned heel and becoming the hero of the story, we were going to spend the rest of the tournament AFKing in safe zones for more experience and of course money making to get extra buyable skills for that extra experience as well. After being tested yet again, we'd finally maxed out, a goal I've had for every Deadman mode and never even come close to. Things were looking brighter than ever. As I write this, we're sitting at rank 4. However, there's 2 highly competent players chasing on my heels, so we'll see where I end up. Additionally, it's worth mentioning that I won't be going to the final hour fights, sadly. See, I'm on my last life, and I'm almost certain that Jagex's death mechanics won't be turned off in the final area, much like they haven't been in previous events, something that I covered in my previous video. Plus, of course, 500-man multi-fights were one of the most fun parts of Dead Man mode. So with them gone and the risk of losing my place on the high scores, I can't be bothered waiting until 2 AM to get trashed on by someone who knows how to PK. So we've maxed out our account, and perhaps the real Dead Man mode were the friends we made along the way. Special thanks to the boys at Gimme Gimme. This was probably one of our quote-unquote worst tournaments to date, despite the fact that we made bank on 07, but I still really enjoyed playing with you all. You're such an amazing, genuine group of people, and you just make Dead Man mode so much more fun and bearable. Additionally, huge thanks to EVscape, C Engineer, Hanani, and Skillspecs. It was fun playing with you all in a varying amount of levels. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, let me know by hitting that subscribe button. You don't have to ring a bell if you don't want to, I understand, but trust me, as a low-tier content creator, each time my phone buzzes with a new subscriber, it makes me smile like a goddamn idiot. So thank you all. If support for this is big enough, I'll have to figure out Shadowplay or some other easy tier recording solution so I can try and make some more engaging content without having OBS running in the background for every second of every day, eating up storage, and now I'm rambling. Okay, I'm just going to end the video very abruptly here. Okay, thanks, bye.